I find in some cases that imperfect games teach me more about what makes a good game than great games. I also find that imperfect games are usually criticized for what they aren't rather than what they are, and I think Soul Hackers 2 is a great example of that in action. I enjoyed Soul Hackers 2 for its fun combat system, well thought out characters, and general charm and presentation. Its evident flaws when it comes to level design and some small story issues prevent me from recommending it wholeheartedly, but I also think it has received more criticism than I think it warrants. Soul Hackers 2 is a dungeon-crawling JRPG spin-off of the Shin Megami Tensei series. The Soul Hackers label has only been used once before as part of the Devil Summoner spin-off, although this most recent game doesn't appear to have the Devil Summoner part of the title. The original Soul Hackers game came out all the way back in 1997 with an updated release in 2012, so this unexpected sequel had a lot to figure out in how to grab audiences and update the formula. The game was developed by Atlus and published by Sega. The staff on the game came from a lot of different titles in Atlus's catalog, from Shin Megami Tensei to the criminally underappreciated Radiant Historia and Tokyo Mirage Sessions. The game released for PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and the Xbox Series on August 25, 2022 in Japan and the next day worldwide. Reception to the game has been mixed, with strong criticism of the extensive and expensive Day 1 DLC at the forefront. The game itself, though, was criticized for poor level design and for feeling like a low-budget title. The game did still find positive reception in its characters and some story elements. Soul Hackers 2 sold over 50,000 copies in Japan in its opening week, but there's no word currently from Atlus if this was a good performance based on their expectations, and those sales are just physical. You play as Ringo, a humanoid being created by the incredible powerful AI Ion. Ion created Ringo and her fellow creation Fig in order to stop the events taking place that Ion predicts will lead to the destruction of the world. The world itself isn't doing so great, with the cyberpunk future basically being a nightmare capitalist haven of apathy. A group called the Phantom Society is trying to gather the tools necessary to bring on the Great One foretold to cause an apocalyptic catastrophe. In order to prevent the Phantom Society's plans, Ringo will need to assume the powers of a Devil Summoner like the Phantom Society and their rivals Yatagarasu, and save certain other Devil Summoners with her soul-hacking powers. Ringo and Fig then team up with these Devil Summoners to foil the plans of Iron Mask and his group while discovering more about the mysterious powers called Covenants that can bring on the Great One. The story is pretty basic overall, but it's executed fine for the most part. Where the game shines when it comes to storytelling is with its main cast, especially Ringo. Ringo is unlike any Atlus protagonist I've ever seen, at the bare minimum because she's a girl, an adult, and is a voice character. Her personality is incredibly charming and comes out of the gate snarky, which always gets my approval. Of course, Ringo would be struggling if she didn't have a capable cohort of characters around her, and Arrow, Milady, and Saizo, with their varied personalities and motivations, serve that role perfectly. Having an all-adult cast in a JRPG is certainly refreshing, speaking as a jaded 20-something adult myself. Lastly, Fig is an excellent foil for Ringo, and the whole party's antics and growing warmth is a strong foundation for caring about the overall story. While the story itself is on the shorter side for a JRPG, you do still get an opportunity to see the cast interact and develop in the hangout events. As you progress through the story or complete side quests, these short events will pop up that you can go to the bar and drink with party members. While these are short, the insight they give into the characters and the way they comment on what's been going on is, I think, a clever way to include general character depth and the feeling that the characters are actually reacting to what you're doing in game. Each hangout event also increases the soul level you have with the party members, which unlocks further progression in the soul matrix, and a certain level is a requirement to get the true ending of the game, which adds further motivation to going to every hangout event that you can. On the combat side of things, pretty much everyone who has played a Shin Megami Tensei mainline or spin-off game knows how this works. This is a turn-based combat system with your characters each having a demon to use to attack the enemies. Enemies have weaknesses or resistances to certain kinds of attacks, and targeting those weaknesses is very important to taking down your enemies. all of your allies move, and then after your turn is complete, all of the enemies go. The twist on the formula for Soul Hackers 2 is with the Sabbaths. When you strike an enemy's weakness, you build up a point in your Sabbath attack at the end of the turn. The greater the stack, the more powerful the Sabbath, and you can even add more damage or other effects from certain demon abilities that you'll get during the game. Over time, you'll get bonus abilities that can increase the stack even more, moving you from a maximum of 4 to one that can get into the double digits with luck and planning. Striking weaknesses, therefore, is very important, and unlike mainline Shin Megami Tensei games, Soul Hackers 2 doesn't punish you with lost turns for hitting an enemy that is resistant to your attack, so fire away, folks! All of your attacks that aren't the standard attack come from the demons in-game, so you'll need a strong party, especially since all the demons are shared between the party members. That means you can switch them onto any of the characters as desired, although there are reasons I'll get into later as to why certain demons are best suited for certain characters. In the field, you jog around, running is coming in the later update, as Ringo from a third-person perspective, and enemies appear as red figures as you are exploring. You can hit these enemies with Ringo's weapon to knock them over, allowing you to either bypass them if you don't want to fight, or engage them in battle with an increased chance of a first strike attack. Correspondingly, if an enemy runs into you without you knocking them down, they have a chance to act first and set you on the back foot. There are risky enemies in the field as well though. These ones are purple that cannot be knocked over and will pursue you mercilessly. They are high-level enemies, which means risky to take on, but rewarding to take down. I mostly ran away from them. While running around, you'll also have the opportunity to pick up items, recruit new demons, and heal up thanks to your demons. At the beginning of an area, Ringo sends out the party's demons on reconnaissance, and you'll find them around the area and can talk to them for the aforementioned rewards. The recruiting new demon system is very straightforward. The demon will appear, and if your level is high enough, it will ask for one thing from you. If you say yes, it'll be recruited. If you say no, it disappears. This system definitely takes out the frustration of hard-to-please demons, but there is also no way to recruit demons from battle, so to get a particular demon, you either have to get lucky or fuse it yourself. Fusing works pretty much the same as ever in Atlas games. You go and take usually 2, but occasionally more, demons and fuse them together to make something new. The new demon can inherit certain skills from the old one, and you can use money to summon demons you already had in the past from the compendium, and then you're back on the streets looking for more. This exploration happens both in the real-world areas and in the Soul Matrix. The Soul Matrix is a virtual recreation of the minds of your party members that you can go through to find out more about their pasts and psyches. While the story part of the Soul Matrix is fun and necessary if you want the true ending, the dungeon itself is lackluster. The level design in general for Soul Hackers 2 is poor, with very bland environments, and especially in the Soul Matrix, with its frustrating gimmicks with portals. I found the combat and some of the ideas like demon exploration quite good, but it is hard not to feel let down by the levels, since I felt more like I was enduring them than I was enjoying them. One area I was happy with the game was the ability to upgrade and progress party members. The main way to distinguish between party members obviously comes from what demon they are using, but you can adjust and enhance their playstyle with certain additions. Accessories have a dramatic effect on stats I don't generally see in video games that can certainly be used well in smarter hands than mine. Add on top of that the mystiques, equipable upgrades boosting certain elemental, healing, or support abilities, and the system is already looking great. Mystiques are also where another distinction between characters comes in, because each character has a certain rank in each element which you can upgrade. For instance, Milady has a strong affinity for fire, so giving her fire-based mystiques is best, and therefore fire-based attacks on the demons as well. In this way, the game guides you towards certain characters using certain demons, but you can always defy fate if you wish. Lastly, the compsmiths, comps are the weapons you all carry, has tons of upgrades to attack power, specific abilities, and mystique ranks that are absolutely necessary to pursue to make sure you're ready for the next tough enemy. The biggest thing for Ringo, though, are the commander skills that can be used a certain number of turns in each battle. These commander skills are how you can swap demons in battle, target particular enemies with sabbaths, or build up the sabbath count. The game rewards you handsomely for making the effort to upgrade. Lastly, we come to the side content. Madame Ginkgo's in the city is the place to go for side quests. These are pretty standard, either fetch quests or go kill the thing quests. The one thing that I think helps keep these interesting is that some of them lead into hangout events of characters reacting to what happened in the quest, and most come from recurring NPCs. The game allows these NPCs to have their own storylines adjacent to ours that we can participate in when the time comes, and that gives a little more character to the world and people we're trying to help save. Overall though, these quests aren't that deep, but they are short and necessary to get those hangout events, to get the soul levels, to get the true ending. There is also the home base where you can rest up between missions and eat meals, all of which is pretty standard. Soul Hackers 2 has some interesting ideas and okay execution, but there are just these design choices that always hold the experience back from being great. Presentation-wise, the game continues with the trend of some good execution and ideas, but overall a feeling of a tight budget holding it back from fulfilling its promise. Starting with the visuals, I think the design of the characters is quite good. It's unlike pretty much anything else I've seen in JRPGs in the past, and I think it suits each of their personalities, and that makes it memorable. While the character design is nice, they clearly couldn't afford to give anyone other than the main cast 3D rendered character models. This led to the flat scenes for shops and other areas outside of the cutscenes. They did have a variety of expressions for the 2D portraits that adjusted even mid-dialogue, which I think was a clever way to introduce personality into the otherwise flat-looking scenes, but it's a band-aid, not an actual fix. The environmental design though suffers from a lack of variety, especially in the dungeons. We are in a futuristic cyberpunk world, and I understand it's a not particularly nice one, but it comes across rather bland and dreary. The game is competently constructed from my experience, with no issues running the game in spite of my older PC, so that was nice. Musically, I think the soundtrack was quite good. The opening song was excellent, and the other tracks never stood out in a bad way and were easy to listen to. The voice acting was also easy on the ears, with the main cast being a strong collection of performers who gave solid performances, starting with, of course, Megan Taylor Harvey as Ringo. UI-wise, everything was legible and easily understood, but the UX sometimes suffered due to the lack of certain features, some of which will be added later, like skipping cutscenes when you've seen them already, not having to hold a button to fast forward, and an actual run button. I think a lot of the ideas the developers had worked okay with what the game was trying to go for, and they had some clever solutions to the budget issues, but I really wish the game had been given a chance to do more. Soul Hackers 2 is going to, unfortunately, be a story of lost potential in several areas. What we did get, though, has a lot of promise and good that I think made my time with it a worthwhile experience. The combat was satisfying to play and deeper than I expected with all the different upgrades, accessories, and mystiques to add to the character build. The story had some missteps that I think mainly would have been fixed with more time to get through each story beat, and the strongest element of the story, the characters, were a continual highlight. The music was nice and the character design solid, but level design and a lack of environmental variety I think brought this game down overall. If you still find yourself interested in giving the game a shot, I say go for it. The important thing is to take Soul Hackers 2 for what it is and not what it isn't. If you can do that, I think you'll have an enjoyable time with the game like I did. I also hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, doing any of the usual YouTube things is a huge help, from liking to commenting to sharing. Of course, if you want to see more from me in the future, the best way to make that happen is to subscribe. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, and happy gaming.